I just want to let you know that this episode is not necessarily for children. Please watch it first before you decide that you want your children to watch it. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to The Rachel Hamm Show, where you'll find the inspiration, encouragement, and tools you've been craving. Be sure to hit subscribe and give this video a quick like. Now, here's Rachel.
Hi, this is the Rachel Hamm Show. I'm Rachel Hamm. This is George. Again, Nikki is out about the town in the living room, but it's just the two of us today. Hopefully, George acts like a grown-up. He is 2.5 years old now, but like I said in the last show, he's just acting like a puppy still. I don't know when he's going to grow up. I know boys tend to be a little delayed with their growing up years, but we're ready for him to be a man, act like a man. How are you? How are you doing? I have had some dreams that I wanted to share with you with a message that is it's very interesting, the timing of when I had it and then something that happened with Tucker Carlson. So I had I had two dreams, 2 nights in a row, that had like the same theme. And I really wasn't sure why I had the dreams. I mean, I really was like, why would I have these dreams? I felt a little confused. But then the day or two after I'd had the dreams, Tucker Carlson came out with an episode of his show where he interviewed Milo something. I don't remember his last name. Actually, I saw the name. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's some weird name. And it was a very interesting episode. The guy Milo was a little bit difficult to listen to, and I don't mean to be mean, but like so he's autistic and he was just kind of spastic. Like he just talked a ton and talked fast and did weird things with his face and just it was a little bit hard to listen to. And again, I feel bad saying that because the information that he gave I thought was very good, very interesting, very controversial. And that the name of the episode I believe was Why Are You Gay? Or Are You Gay? Or something like that. And so I'll tell you my dreams. Then we can talk about that episode. And then I had a third dream connected. So the first two dreams were about lesbians. Oh, hold on. Let me say, this episode isn't for kids. If you want to let your kids watch it, no problem. But I did want to give at least a little disclaimer that this is not really a kid episode. So you might want to watch it first and then decide if you want to let your kids watch it or not. But yeah, just want to give that little heads up. So the first two dreams were about lesbians that were, well, I'll start with the first dream. The first dream was there, I was observing this room where there were some lesbians, and one of them was not wanting to be a lesbian. Like she had made some decisions and had been part of what I would call social contagion, which is basically the fact that suddenly now, it's like really popular to be gay. I mean, not just now. In fact, it seems to be on the decline, I think. But for the last, however many years, it's really been like really popular to be gay. And especially amongst young people, it's like it went from like 2% of the population saying that they were attracted to same-sex people to like 20%. I mean, it was just this gigantic jump and it was not organic. And it didn't seem to just be about, well, now they feel free to be honest. It was like, yeah, no, something else was happening. There was what I would call a social contagion where it's like this ball starts rolling and it's like a snowball that just gathers more and more snow and people get sucked into what they, especially young people, believe to be kind of cool, kind of the it thing, kind of feel a lot of pressure to be this thing. In fact, feel like you're rejected if you're not. Like if you're gay, then you're like cool and accepted, and we love you, and we really like celebrate you. But if you're not gay, then you're kind of like that's not that cool to just be like a straight white male, especially. They seem to really be getting the shaft these days. And so a lot of people were becoming gay. But really, I think that was not even part of their natural temptation. It was just part of the social contagion. And that's in this dream, that's how this girl was. It was like there was a lot of pressure. There was a desire to be accepted and to be celebrated. And a series of circumstances had been happening to set her up to go ahead and move into that lifestyle. And she'd been in it for a while. And now she didn't want to do it anymore. She knew it wasn't really who she was. She knew it was a mistake. But there was such a stronghold of this is how I have identified myself. This is how I'm known. I've made these declarative, strong, argumentative statements against my family, against other friends, and I've made it clear that I am this. I am a lesbian now. And but now I know I was wrong. I'm not. I'm not a lesbian. I got caught up. I made some mistakes. I am trapped. And that was really the summation of the first dream. That was it. The second dream, very similar, observing a room of lesbians, less though. In this one, there were four, and there were two older ladies and two younger. And it was very clear that the older ladies had pursued and groomed and entrapped the younger ones into this lifestyle. And they had been confused about it. The two younger ones had been confused at the beginning because some of the things that the older lesbians had done to them had been pleasurable. And so it was confusing to them. So they believed what these older lesbians were telling them. They get, yeah, I guess I am a lesbian because I enjoyed that. So I guess I am. So they went along with the older ones, and the older ones were very controlling, domineering, possessive. And it reminded me of someone I know in real life, someone that I grew up with my whole life. And when we were at summer camp as teenagers, our camp counselor in our cabin pursued my friend. Now, back then, the counselor was not saying that she was a lesbian. She did later say that, but at the time, she just pursued my friend for friendship. But she was quite a bit older, and it was not natural. It was a little bit like it's kind of weird. Kind of felt kind of weird. But she just, said they were like kindred spirits and like soulmate type friends, at first. That's what she was saying. And she would, I think what she did was what we would now call grooming, pursuing, grooming, manipulating my friend. And my friend maintained this friendship with her, very close friendship with her. And then she ended up, my friend got married to a man. And then that woman continued really kind of holding like control over her in a way. And ultimately, she left her husband and went with this lady and said that she was a lesbian as well. And they went to be together. And in this dream, it felt like that. It reminded me of my friend because it was this older person, these older two ladies pursuing these young girls, confusing them with things that feel good, right? Like often, and this is why I'm saying this is not appropriate for kids. So often children who are SA'd, because you're not allowed to say certain words on YouTube. So often children who are SA'd, that stands for, you know, um, they get confused and they think that they are complicit. They don't think they've been abused because it was sexually enjoyable for them. So they're confused. They think that it's just a very confusing thing. And that's what was happening in this dream. These girls were so confused. They got sucked into this life. These older ones were so controlling over them, which I don't know how many lesbians you know, but of the ones I know, that's a pretty common dynamic. One is older and it's not necessarily the older one that is domineering, but they seem to have a dynamic where one is very, very controlling. And I've seen that really kind of a lot. Like of the ones I've seen, that's the dynamic. One is very possessive, controlling, domineering. The other one submits to this control, and they have a weird, weird dynamic. And in this dream, I was seeing this played out, but then at the end of the dream, it was that these girls, which weren't girls, they were like young adults, they realized it. They knew suddenly, I'm not a lesbian. Like I've been wrong. And again, I've told my whole family this for years. This is who I've proclaimed myself to be. I'm in this relationship and I can't get out. So you can see why a little bit why I would think, why am I having this dream? I no one in my close vicinity or circle of family is struggling with this. I didn't know of any situations in real life that I was like needing to apply it to. I don't know. I was just a little bit like, why did I have these dreams? So kind of just put them on the shelf like I do until I get clarity. And then Tucker Carlson came out with this interview with Milo that I would really encourage you, if you're able to stand how difficult it is to listen to him, to listen to the whole thing. And it's also not for kids because he goes into more explicit detail than I wish he would have. But I also felt like it was not for no reason. Like he had a reason for a lot of stuff he was saying. I think we needed to hear it. But it was a lot. It was a lot. It was definitely graphic. So I'm gonna play some of that for you now, and then we can talk about it afterwards. So here's a clip from that episode of Tucker Carlson. Take a look.
Let me ask, are you gay? Were you gay? Like, what is gay?
Nobody's gay. Nobody's gay. After that clip, which is the best thing on the internet, he changes the question, the interrogative to a declarative. He says, "Why are you gay?" And she starts, it starts talking. He says, "You are gay." It becomes a statement, and this is where he goes. This is where he loses me because nobody is gay. We've been encouraged to think of this. It's an icky subject. Like straight men don't want to think about.
No, it's okay.
That.
I mean, it's reached.
But you invited me.
Well, I invited you because I have not wanted to be engaged with the topic at all. I don't have super strong personal feelings about it, but all of a sudden, it has become like a defining fact of the West that we have a huge gay population. Like, what does that
sodomy?
But no one wants to talk about
giving
it.
aid with strings attached. So I'm trying to look, what metaphor am I reaching for? Strings attached. Yes, you can, but only if you have a gay pride festival.
Right.
What is that? Yes,
exactly. What is that?
Yes, it has been, and all of these things, and with the collapse in people identifying as trans, you're beginning to now see what some of us have always known about homosexuality, which is that this is a product. I mean, there are some people, obviously, who were probably always going to be gay. Tammy Bruce. But like maybe she might be the only real lesbian. She might be the only real lesbian. I believe when Tammy Bruce tells me that she was only ever into women, I believe her.
Yes.
And I like her, by the way. I think she's great. But she's like the only real lesbian. With gay men, which is completely different, we see the numbers go up, the numbers go down. This is not without some change in environmental factors. This doesn't make sense if we believe the old lie, born this way. If we believe what was in fact invented in the 1980s as a public relations strategy, born this way. So what happened back in the days? Gays were in the 80s and with AIDS and all the rest of it, wanting to be out and proud and to wear their sins on their sleeves. And somebody came up with this idea, which caught on and worked. It was twofold. One is, well, what if we say that being gay is like being black or being a woman?
Yes.
Then they're a bigot. We're not weird. And so it takes the religious, the moral majority's sinful lifestyle choice argument, and it screws them because now they're saying like, you're wrong to be a girl or you're wrong to be black.
Exactly.
It was invented wholesale by the activists in the 1980s. And the second part of it was, and this is in a book called After the Ball, which is kind of defined how gay activists were going to well, it was very influential because it was really the book that told gay activists how to get this revolting sin that most people don't even want to think about up front and center, family friendly, and ultimately to the state where we let them adopt children, which is a whole thing we'll get into. And that was, don't talk about bodily functions, don't talk about effluvia, just talk about love. Just talk about love. Talk about it in terms of love, like love is love, love wins. And we see this to the present day. Never talk about, the stains on the sheets, the promiscuity, the drugs, the glory holes in Berlin nightclubs. Never talk about any of those things because those things will repel women. And you need moms with gay sons to affirm their homosexuality. And so what is that homosexuality? Long answer for a short question, I understand. In almost every case, and certainly in every male case, it is a trauma response. It is not a sexuality. It is not part of what you are or who you are or a component of your personality or a function of it. It is a set of behaviors that is that emerges in people with a number of very easily identifiable common etiologies. One of them is so for instance, among Black and Jewish Americans, they report statistically significantly higher rates of homosexuality. Well, why could that be? Overbearing mums and absent dads, or in the Jewish case, nebbish fathers, and like Jewish. My Jewish friends, I always call their marriages are like lion taming. Where you have a sort of nebbish, scholarly, bookish dad and a larger than life mom who one day decides she's going to be a rabbi. But, that, or in the Black community, of course, just the fatherlessness. And it's why, if we're born this way, if you don't have some other better explanation, could it be the case that there are more gays among Black and Jewish populations? Well, something's going on here. Why are we getting more trans and more gays and then less gays and then less? Why? Because this is, in fact, a symptom. In fact, this is a product of something. It's the result of something.
Well, this was Freud's position, which was kind of conventional wisdom for the better part of 100 years, that this was a response to the environment and particularly to the relationship with the mother that a young boy has and a relationship with his father. I mean, this was like people just assumed that was true when I was a kid. They were not gay haters or homophobes. That was a state of knowledge on the subject.
One of the only things Freud got right was that. And it's funny that, the way that that's actually in line with Catholic Church teaching, and now has become, now you see the terminology in the medical industry has begun to change as well, because, now gay people are sort of saturated everywhere. Like when you get it's kind of like America, you get a whole country full of people who are very similar, but all think they're really, really individual.
That's deep. P.S. Yes, I do know what that looks like.
Okay. So he says a lot in that clip, right? So kind of going back to the beginning of the clip though, where he says, where Tucker says, "Are you gay? Were you gay?" And his answer is, now you have to understand, Milo spent his whole adult life until 5 years ago, and his younger life as well, saying that he was gay. And he was kind of, if I may, flaming. He was known as being a conservative gay man. And he was quite demonstrative in that way. And so then Tucker's saying there's been a change, and Milo is saying he is not living that life anymore. So Tucker says, "Are you gay? Were you gay?" Well, he's trying to get some clarification. And Milo's answer is, "No one is gay." Which I could have just stopped the clip right there, because I thought that is fascinating for someone like him especially to say. And I know this is controversial. I hope that YouTube even lets it stay up, but in both of my dreams, that's what was being shown. It was, they're not gay. There were a variety of circumstances that got them to where they are, but they're not gay. They maybe really thought they were. They lived like they were. They maybe even enjoyed it for a while. but something had changed and they realized they weren't gay. And again, I would encourage you to watch the entire episode because he goes into a lot of detail about his personal process. And it was very interesting. But I felt like I had to do a show about it because why would I have these two dreams, right? And be kind of confused about it. And then I watched this episode and I thought, oh my goodness, here we are immediately after having these dreams, this episode. But I continued to just like think about it and ruminate and really like, Lord, what are you wanting me to say? And it was so interesting because as of last night, I knew I was going to go ahead and do the show today, and I was really praying about it and ready to do the show. And I had another dream last night, same thing, same general concept. In this dream, though, it was that a girl kissed another girl, a young girl kissed another girl like at a party. And that was all it took. She was half doing it just for shock value and to just be the life of the party at this party. And what happened was immediately these women all started pursuing her, and none of the men would pursue her because she was acting like she was a lesbian at this party, and they thought she was. They thought that's what she was saying. And suddenly, none of the men would have anything to do with her or pursue her, and these women were all pursuing her, and so she just went with it, but knew like what has happened. This isn't what I was trying to accomplish. But what on earth do I do now? And she felt just stupid and ashamed and trapped. And Milo really only talks about the perspective of gay men for the most part, because that's his experience. And he was talking about his own experience. And interesting, in my dreams, it was all women that were in this situation. It's both. They, I think, have different circumstances. There's a lot of differences, as I've heard from different people who have this story of coming out of that lifestyle. And that's even controversial right now. You're not supposed to even be able to say that you can come out of it. Like that is considered like a hate speech kind of thing. Like you can't say it. You can't say it. So like Tucker was saying, he didn't know if this interview was going to be staying on YouTube because, they're trying to even ban therapy that helps people who say, I'm struggling with same-sex attraction, but I don't want to be, I want to change that. It's not legal to counsel them out of those feelings and help them deal with why they're having those feelings and what to do about them and help them live the life God intended for them to live. That's illegal in some states. I believe my state is one of them. It's illegal. What? How did this happen? Right? I mean, it's insane, right? But it's interesting how he talks about how they wanted to frame it. They knew this was not going to be accepted by society, and it is not who God created you to be. So what are we going to do to change everyone's mind and make them think that it is? And part of it is we got to reframe it. We've got to just talk about love, right? Just love. Just talk about love. Love wins. Love is love, right? We have to say it in such a way, we have to make our argument in such a way that you can't even argue with it. Who would argue with love wins? Well, of course, we all want love to win. You can't, how do you argue with it? So they word things in a way that's very, very manipulative. And I certainly never want to shame parents who have children that are gay, but also he talks a lot about there needing to be some reflection on how this comes about. He talks about trauma in the background being a big factor for it. He talks about weak fathers and overbearing mothers. There's a lot to it. But when I had this dream again last night, and I'm like ready to do the show, I'm like, why did I have a third dream? I felt like I was already kind of on track for the message, and it was kind of the same theme. It was slightly different, where this one was just a young girl at a party and suddenly just like this was her identity that had been put on her and she didn't know how to get out. But it's all similar, right? So I asked the Lord, though, I had said, Lord, what do you want me to say about this, though? Like, what's the point? Okay, so we know this is the case that both men and women have gotten into this lifestyle and feel trapped and feel like they have made it their own identity, or others have made it their identity, and they're just absolutely embarrassed, trapped, ashamed, don't know what to do, want to get out, but also pride can be a big factor, right? How do I acknowledge that I was wrong? I was wrong. That takes humility. And what is the whole thing with gay what? Pride. Gay pride. Pride is one of the worst sins that we can have, first of all. So it's going to take some humility, right? But I'm talking about people who they're willing to, like they want to come out. They're ashamed though. They're scared. They don't know what to do. They feel so stupid and entrapped. So this is the example that God gave me that he wanted me to share with you. When I was a kid, if I was ever going to someone's house for a birthday party or something like that, my parents would always tell me when they would drop me off, if you feel uncomfortable while you're there, or if you don't feel like this is an environment you want to stay in, call home and we will be your excuse. You can say your parents want you to come home. Blame it on us. Probably maybe your parents did that too, right? Like they would say, oh, just make an excuse. Tell them that your mom, dad said you have to come home and we're coming to pick you up. So what God told me was to tell people who are in this lifestyle that want to come out to use him as the excuse. You know what? I was this, but I've become a Christian, or I've gotten a revelation from God that I have to change. And so because he's saying so, I have to blame him. Kind of funny, I know. But he said, tell them to blame me. Blame me. Like that parent that is just protecting their kid from a situation that they need to get out of. Blame me. So that's kind of a bottom line for that specific person in that situation. If you are in that situation, if you know someone in that situation, if you sense that someone is in that situation where they've made this their identity, like so many young people have over these last years, tell them to blame God. God says they need to come out of that lifestyle. He's got something better for them, and they've got to obey God. Blame him. Now, if you are in that situation or know someone that is, I want to share another little video of a testimony from someone that I saw online that I thought was interesting and inspirational. So I want to go ahead and share that with you now. So take a look at this.
I used to believe that homosexuality was a perfectly normal sexual variant, and I was a lesbian feminist professor, and my partner and I were involved in, I thought, good and moral things. AIDS activism, children's literacy, our Unitarian Universalist Church. I was also hired by Syracuse University, in part, to make homosexuality look wholesome. And I suspect I did that. And sometimes that, as I look out on this world now from a very different perspective, that is very painful to me. I often feel that the blood is on my hands, and the world we now live in is the world I helped make. I was working on a book project, basically trying to understand why, I suspect people like you didn't very much like people like me. And so I started researching the religious right. And I'm an English professor by training, so in order to do that, I needed to read the Bible. And my neighbor was a Christian pastor, and he was more than happy to read the Bible with me. And so after reading the Bible over 7 times and probably having 500 meals at his house and really getting to know Ken and Floy Smith and their church, something happened. And it wasn't that I stopped feeling like a lesbian. The thing that happened was the Word of God got to be bigger inside me than I am. And I one day realized that Jesus is real. And the resurrection is real, that the resurrected Jesus is the true truth, and I had no interpretive power over that. And so that began a very, very messy conversion. I know that justification is something that happens in the courtroom of God and it's immediate, but my goodness, that my brain didn't change that quickly. There are a lot of rough, messy, difficult moments in that. And even though I had a messy past, very messy, sinful messy, and I was repenting of the sin of lesbianism, along with a host of other sins that I would love to say I only had one sin to repent of, but newsflash, that was not the case. And then also dealing with just the complex way that sin, a sexual sin, inserts itself in your heart and your mind and your body memories. And that reality has done something to me. And part of the something that reality did to me was prompt me to write this book. We live in this world that almost feels like we're living at the ground zero of the Tower of Babel. We say the same words, but we can't understand each other. It all of a sudden feels like there's a civil war raging within Christianity. The disunity in the Christian church over very basic things that we as Christians did not disagree about even 10 years ago is very disconcerting. It's becoming a spiritual burden. It's part of the spiritual warfare of our day. And I came to realize that there are 3 reasons that I could discern that have produced 5 lies. And those 5 lies are insidious. But I wanted to write this book for just the faithful Christians out there who can perceive that there's something wrong and would really like to know what's going on. Because here's the thing, lies can't be domesticated. You can't just add lies to truth and come up with anything that honors the Lord. So I needed to write this book, partly for my own confession and in the hopes that it will bless and magnify and encourage Christians, everyday Christians in the church.
Isn't that a really beautiful testimony? And so I hope that you have found this to be encouraging or interesting. I hope that if you are in this situation or you know someone who is, that these stories, that Milo's testimony and story and information and my dreams and this lady's testimony have inspired you towards the life God created you for. Until next time, God bless you and know that you are loved.
Thanks for watching The Rachel Hamm Show. If you found value in today's content, would you consider giving a gift? Any amount is appreciated, and the links to give are in the description box below this video. Or perhaps you'd like to buy one of Rachel's products so she can continue bringing content like this to you. All the links to purchase her products are in the description box below the video. To find out more about Rachel, you can go to her website, rachelhamm.com. That's RachelHamm.com. See you in the next episode of The Rachel Hamm Show.